What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
It would be foolish to wait any longer for him, and perhaps for that reason, Veldora felt the earlier false hope going away. He would have to go out alone if he couldn't rely on Rimuru.
I will have to go outside for her. That would be preferable to her destroying the labyrinth to get to me.
Although there was no evidence to support it, Veldora believed he might be able to make it. Rimuru had been a good trainer, though sometimes it was simple to forget that. Veldora reasoned that if he had been able to withstand it, Velgrynd couldn't possibly have defeated him that easily.
Okay, fine. Just take care of Velgrynd for me and I'll take full responsibility for the consequences. Are you able to do that?
Rimuru sounded as if he didn't anticipate Veldora losing either. Furthermore, if he was accepting full responsibility for the consequences, he had no right to complain about the damage done as a result. Rimuru was practically begging him to demonstrate the results of his up-to-date training in light of it. Besides, it was Rimuru who asked. He received what he desired.
Oh ho? Then let me take care of everything for you, okay?
He shifted his focus back to Velgrynd. He felt much less stressed after his conversation with Rimuru. Suddenly, he experienced extreme serenity and peace.
I'll have to go out alone,
he said, seeming completely at ease.
Master?
Sir Veldora?
Beretta and Ramirez both gave him startled looks. With renewed sneering, Veldora pretended that all of his problems had been resolved.
Even though I am not really interested in fighting my sister, there is nothing else we can do if using the labyrinth to buy some time doesn't work.
But
no problem, cherries. The only reason immortality in the labyrinth is possible is because it takes place in an isolated space. The only way to limit further damage is for me to go outside since we know it's not going to work against my sister.
Veldora was essentially immortal as long as Rimuru was still alive. Veldora had to leave if he wanted to stop any further sacrifices.
alright, then let me join you.
Stay put, please. Even if you've become stronger, you still can't compare to me. Zijin might be a different matter, but anyone else would only be a burden.
Although harsh, it was the truth. Additionally, Veldora was ready for what lay ahead. He now had a gallant air about him. It was nothing like the pitiful terror he had then.
Master, will you be alright?
No, I won't be at all alright. But enough of that, I don't even want to consider the dreadful abuse my sisters subjected me to. I have also grown stronger. I've changed as a result of meeting Rimuru. Now that I'm a trainer myself, I've come to realize how immature I was. I'm not at all like I used to be.
Veldora managed to laugh. He had psychologically boosted himself so much that his tone had returned to normal.
So, don't be alarmed. Just sit back and observe as I enter the stage with courage.
He then left the labyrinth alone after that. Veldora thought back to his battle with Velzerd. The oldest of his two sisters, whom he hadn't seen in a while, seemed considerably stronger and her defense much more impenetrable than before. The previous Veldora would never have noticed it. Nothing represented his transformation more than acquiring an ultimate skill, which had been made possible by running into Rimuru. Veldora had the opportunity to watch Rimuru and learn a great deal while he was imprisoned inside his stomach. He came to the realization that using power properly is the only way for it to have any true purpose. He possessed the biggest magicule energy reserve of any true dragon. It was superior to those of his two sisters and gave him the freedom to effortlessly become one of the world's most powerful presences. But Veldora recognized that as being naive. He was aware that certain people, despite their weakness, would fight to the bitter end to prevail. One of them was Rimuru, and he knew that many of those who fought him were the same way, including Hinata, Granville, and the demon lord Ruminas. He was aware that they didn't just rely on their might to win. They also employed every trick in the book, so he never relaxed his guard around them. After he realized that, Veldora became an entirely new being. And he had the evidence to support it. Even in battle with Velzerd, he was capable of holding his own and launching a counterattack as opposed to simply being beaten as is customary. Given how incompatible his power was with hers, Velzerd was to him a sort of natural enemy and a terribly undesirable foe. The upper bounds of her talents were all but a mystery to him because she had been born first. He may have had a greater magicule supply, but they were so close in almost every other manner that it wasn't much an advantage. He had little chance of winning in a fair fight. Since the day he was born, he had often challenged her but had been soundly defeated. Velzerd's eternal world skill served as both an impregnable defense and a weapon, impeding Veldora's movement. Before this immovable wall, all potential effects, gales, destruction, corrosion, and ruin, were rendered ineffective. He was up against a frightening sister, but Veldora was pleasantly surprised to see that he was more than capable of competing. I'm doing fantastic, he thought. Because he could manage his own as well, Veldora was the only one to recognize that Velzard had mastered the art of entirely controlling the magical power she unleashed. But the disparity was simply too great to compare. The nature of Velzard's abilities, which allowed her to stop kinetic energy such easily, played a significant role in that, but even without that, it was still clear how far off they were from one another. Despite possessing that kind of skill, Velzard was surprisingly open in her adoration of Veldora's development.
Yes, it is quite a surprise, I admit. You used to only act out like a spoiled child, but now you're also fighting with your head, aren't you? If things keep going this way, perhaps we won't need to kill you after all.
Although there were a few unsettling words there, the majority of it was plainly flattering to Veldora. The fact that he had previously only felt dread for her made him extremely delighted. He was still powerless against her, but whatever. How about Velgrynd then? Velzard and Velgrynd have roughly equal skill levels. They were both big sisters that Veldora found difficult to cope with, and if he were being completely honest, he didn't really want to battle either of them. He had to step up because there was no other way to go at this time.
Velgrynd is still a formidable opponent. Even I couldn't launch an assault like that, spanning several labyrinth floors.
He might be able to destroy 1 or 2 floors by just twisting the spatial layers with enough force. But not even he could break through many floors with a single strike, not even after using up all of his magicules.
The secret must be the ultimate skill. I will have to fully employ Faust, Lord of Investigation, if I wish to stand a chance against her.
He was correct. He hoped that the fact that Veldora had more magicules than Velgrynd would put him in a somewhat better position with her than with Velzard. The traumatic experience of that encounter was eventually overcome thanks to that hope. He had to use his abilities wisely if he wanted to win this battle. There was no question that Velgrynd was the strongest of the two despite the fact that they had never engaged in meaningful combat. However, that story happened in the past. Velzard was difficult to defeat because her abilities were especially effective against Veldora. But this would not be the case with Velgrynd. Additionally, he had learned the ultimate skill Faust, Lord of Investigation, thanks to Rimuru. With that ability in his possession, he reasoned that even Velgrynd wouldn't be something to be afraid of because it also worked against Velzard. Veldora now felt prepared to undertake this mission.
Nobody has told me I'm going to lose yet, have they? Why not test the strength of this power against my own sister if I needed to do so anyway?
Veldora showed up in front of Velgrynd with renewed vigor. The siblings, who were both in human form, locked eyes with one another in midair. As true dragons, they naturally remained perfectly still in the air.
I'm glad you were smart enough to figure out what I meant by that warning. You've made the decision to cooperate with me now, then?
Velgrynd appeared to be quite pleased to see Veldora. It wouldn't be for very long.
I decline, sister. I'm not a tool for you to use however you want, and I'd appreciate it if you'd stop dragging me into your sisterly fights.
Dragging? What a cruel word to use. What I'm trying to say is that I would like to have you as a close friend if you are willing to cooperate with me. Then I could show you how to use your abilities, letting you be as irrational as you pleased, though I would ask that you let me pick the times and places for you.
My sister, my response is still no. I've already mastered how to use my abilities, and I also no longer find pleasure in violence for its own sake. I've grown, you see. I am a fully mature dragon.
If I were you, I wouldn't be that brazen. Maybe we spoiled you a little too much. But excellent. Then let me gauge how much you've grown.
After that brief exchange, Velgrynd was prepared to engage in a fight. Veldora moved quickly to shore up his position. His sister never intended to enlist him just through verbal bargaining. She would demonstrate her power, and he would be forced to comply. If that failed, she would simply rough him up so that Rudra could dominate him. It was merely Velgrynd's approach of being a little kinder by using persuasion to convince him. So, Velgrynd made her first move toward Veldora without hesitating. She did this because she was a little annoyed that the talks had fallen apart. She was hoping to do this quickly and render him unconscious long enough for Rudra to arrive. But Veldora lightly blocked her right-handed chop and then gave her a kick in return. Velgrynd, who was quickly losing patience, grabbed it with her left hand, but... what? This power. This doesn't seem at all weakened. Velgrynd believed that after being imprisoned for 300 years, Veldora had not yet entirely recovered. The Veldora she knew would always throw all of his strength around, so she figured his present, weaker front was just a side effect of the seal. She has now realized her mistake after all of that back and forth.
You seem to have made some progress, don't you? I can now see that your boasting goes beyond mere words.
My Veldora death stance is unbeatable and indestructible. And you, my sister, will see how powerless you are before my... Whoa.
Veldora's pompous justifications for why he was so powerful weren't the reason Velgrynd had come here. Instead, she launched a more ferocious onslaught as she grew even more irritated than before. Crimson flames gathered around her hands and the supple legs extending from her garment. Then came a barrage of attacks in the form of a mad dance, blistering enough to kill everything that touched it. Veldora, though, could withstand it.
Ow. Hot. Hot.
Although he was running away from her at full speed while sounding like a child, he remained unharmed.
Over the years, I've given you a lot of discipline, but it seems your head is still as childish as it ever was. It's absolutely absurd to hear someone brag about being unbeatable and indestructible.
Even though Velgrynd was as enraged as a roaring fire, she maintained her composure. She could now clearly see that Veldora had not only recovered from his prison but was also far stronger than she had anticipated. This can be challenging. I am unable to use my full force in this form, nor am I able to inflict much harm. Rudra will never be able to overpower him when he shows up. She didn't come here to rough up Veldora a little and give him a lesson. It was to control him. Once Rudra had triumphed over Guy, they intended to release him, but in the meantime, they saw him as a potentially valuable pawn and set out to capture him. It served no purpose, in Velgrynd's opinion, to keep this a penny ante game, and Veldora appeared to concur.
My clothes. The priceless outfit Rimuru gave me. You're responsible for setting them on fire, my sister.
He was wearing clothing that Rimuru had given him as an expression of his appreciation. It was genuinely priceless to him, and Velgrynd's strike had destroyed it now. It would have been sufficiently influenced by Veldora's aura over time to really become a physical component of his body, but anticipating such a drastic change in just a few days would be unreasonable. Although Veldora was essentially unharmed, his heart took a serious hit as a result of this. Even though it was all his fault for arriving at this event in flammable clothing, he felt justified in venting his anger on his sister. And Veldora was actually fortunate as a result. After all, anger can serve as a substitute for fear, and despite his best efforts, he nevertheless feared his sisters from a young age. In his view, the two of them represented terror, making the prospect of facing either one with all of his might seem absurd. Now, however, the chains had been taken off.
Sister or not, I'm not going to show you any more mercy. Face my wrath and get ready.
Veldora let out a roar as he unleashed his powers. He was replaced by a powerful, majestic dragon who was completely black in appearance.
Hey anime fans! Episode 3 of Solo Leveling is now live on Anime Fan Narrations. Check it out in the link below and join the adventure. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more updates.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of AnimeKouhai supporters: Luca Gaming WTF, William Locke, Jordan Mersha, Jay Magsino, Recrel17, Bismarck Munoz, Arion Booker, Sagar Kotecha, Jerry Sladek, Andre Hamilton. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.